Today's Wednesday, June 6, 2018. It's that time of the week, everybody.
You're tuned in to the Elevator Radio Show, a weekly program dedicated to covering news and information on elevators, escalators, and moving walkways. Produced in the wee hours of the morning, a new show is uploaded every Wednesday, sometimes even before you get out of bed. Listen to some of the comments sent in from our audience.
Rob from New York writes, Tom, are you f***ing insane? You actually get up at 2 a.m. each Wednesday to put this show out? Man, you must love elevators. Tim from Illinois writes, I'm not sure why I listened, but ever since I tuned into the first show back in 2007, I've been addicted. Matt in Texas writes, I like your safety messages, Tom. It's important to remember them each and every day. And he also adds,
when am I going to win the monthly prize pack giveaway?
Ron from California sent this in. Despite your inability to pronounce words in the English language, I tune in each week and am glad that you offer this service to the industry. It's better than Google News alerts. Sarah from Washington writes, love the show, Tom, and look forward to it each week. I'm glad I signed up for the newsletter. You provide a valuable resource for the industry, not only for North America, but worldwide.
Enjoy the show. And now, here's your sleep-deprived host, Tom Seibert.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's good to be back. After taking a week off last week, and if you were probably like me, actually, if you were up early and your computer was on, most likely it was updating itself on its own, and just not always a good thing for it to do. For some reason last week, it took forever. It said it would take a while. It took a while, and all I can see is that it somehow loaded Edge up, which I didn't have before. So one of those deals where I realized, oh, you know what? These updates happen in the morning, when everybody's sleeping. So it's probably billions and billions of computers are being updated at the same time, throttling the internet to some extent, and that's probably part of the issue. And I realized, oh, well, I probably should be sleeping at this time. Anyway, very frustrating. Regardless, we do have a good show for you today. Articles to share that you should pass on to your coworkers, those as reminders, as safety reminders to ensure that we're all doing our part to be safe out there in the field. Some terrible accidents that happened in the last 2 weeks that we'll touch on later. But the first one I do want to touch on, which is kind of moved me a great deal. You don't realize how accidents can truly affect you until you hear about somebody that you know, a friend of yours or a coworker that it has happened to. And I'm sure many of you out there have gone through this before, but I spoke to a friend of mine who I had not spoken to in a while last night and did not realize that he was injured in a work-related accident in a hoistway, and did not realize the severity of his injuries. And this happened January 2017 until he shared those with me. Basically, he's lucky to be alive, and very knowledgeable person, very somebody who I consider an expert in the field in what he does. He's a mechanic, and basically what happened was this guy on top of the car ran it on inspection, and the thing didn't stop. So while there are situations which are preventable, which we can be as careful as we possibly can, there are others that we cannot control, that are beyond what we are able to control and not expecting. So be prepared for anything. So, gosh, that was the last phone call I took last night, and just moved me, shook me to the bones to some extent. And I felt really bad for my friend who has been through so much in a year in trying to recover, trying to recuperate. And anyway, I just that's the kind of thing I wanted to share, because you just don't know what can happen. You just don't know. So be prepared for as much as you possibly can out there, and look out for those you're working with as well. So that's critical. June is such a busy month. There's so much going on. If you do need your QEI recertification, make sure you get on that as soon as you possibly can through NACE International. They have great opportunities to learn throughout the course of whatever your year, but make sure you get on top of that. And next year, if for some reason this year you're a little bit behind in getting your certification, educational units, got a whole year to do it. Make sure that you're on top of that for next year. So have a link in that in the show notes, or go to NACE naesai.org, naesai.org, and just get that done. Okay, we have a lot to cover on the show today. Some commentary as well. Just as a reminder, the articles shown and found online or been found online. The commentary of myself does not reflect anything, any entity I work for or with, nor any board that I serve on, and it's just commentary. So, articles found online sometimes are not true, do not pertain or do not cover or share all the details that may have been involved in the incident or the articles. So please take everything that's online as well as what I share in my commentary with a grain of salt. Feel free to correct me if you'd like on anything that I talk about. And you can send me an email, elevatorradioshow@gmail.com. Up next, we will get into the content of 2 weeks' worth of news.
Let this week's news stories give you a lift on what's happening in the vertical transportation arena. Each news segment is organically dug and fresh with news stories of the week. Got lift? If not, stay tuned.
I'm going to start off with the photo that I've shared on the blog post today, elevatorradioshow.com. This is show number 506. I saw this photo. I had to share it. I know it's probably copywritten, but I really don't care. Come and sue me, United Arab Emirates, whatever. This is a photo that was credited by a reader of this news organization in, I believe, the Middle East somewhere. Okay, I'm just going to say that Gulf News. This is terrifying. This shows two children. They look to be about 2 years old with soft-soled shoes. And I am not 100% sure if they are twins or if it is the same child with the photograph taken, twice. I'm not 100% sure. Regardless, it's terrifying. And for those of you listening to the podcast and not watching the YouTube video or whatever, or if you have no idea what I'm talking about here, it shows a little boy, two little boys. And again, I'm not sure if it's really one that, they just merged two photos together or what, but it is one little boy can't even reach up to hold the escalator. Neither one of them actually can't even hold the escalator or reach up to hold it, which is terrifying. The other one of them's walking, trying to walk up these big stairs. Well, they're big to him, obviously. The other one's standing, but he has his hand like basically holding. He's dragging his hand across the glass side below the handrail, and this is not how you ride an escalator. Never let a child ride an escalator or an elevator or moving walkway, please. These are not amusement rides. I've witnessed this personally where parents have laughed and thought that it's okay for little tiny children to ride equipment like this, and it's not. It's really not. And if you're a parent, please be careful. Please make sure that your kids are not doing things that you may think are cute, but not necessarily safe, and you may not know what safe is, but this is not safe. Okay, so that's the photo. That's my my PSA. Click on this, link it, and this is just an accident waiting to happen. First news article, and actually, let me just back up a step here. Last week, I did receive a couple emails from listeners of the program, sharing information regarding a fatality which involved a elevator mechanic, tragically, in the Houston, Texas area. There was no information online that regarding this accident happening, and just so you know, I couldn't link anything up to it because of that. Apparently, it appears that it was related to electrocution. Again, I don't have all the details, but still, when we lose one of our own mechanics, technicians to an accident such as this, it's awful. It's awful. It's a family that's lost their loved one, and for what? For what? So that an elevator can run. And again, I don't have the details that are relating to this incident, but just as a note to you, all of you out there, be careful. Be careful. First news article, construction worker dies in 21-story fall after alleged elevator malfunction. Now, this is just an update regarding the incident that we covered on a program beginning of, let's see when this happened. May 23rd, not the beginning of anything for that matter. This actually happened in Charlotte. Construction worker who had allegedly fallen or was killed in an elevator malfunction. Anyway, there's not a whole lot of news regarding this or an update, but I did want to share that just so that everybody's on the same page and understands how important safety is for everybody that's working on equipment. Cousin recalls, man, and this is the same, let's see here, same incident that we talked about before. It's tragic. Yeah, I mean, it's the dangerous work that we do, not only in on elevators, but in the construction trade, regardless. Received this email from SECA, Canadian Elevator Contractors Association, regarding the passing of Bernard Kelly. I've linked up the obituary here. I believe that I probably met Bernard maybe once or twice, but he was a pioneer in one of the principal founders of the Canadian Elevator Contractors Association back in 1972. Obviously, our thoughts, our prayers go out to his family, which is unfortunate. I'm sure there'll be some kind of recognition for him back, next year's SECA event. New Jersey Transit Secaucus Escalator versus Direction Injuring 3. This does happen. Unfortunately, it shouldn't. So more information on that is online, coming from northjersey.com. And I'm sure this is one of those deals where, it happens and then there's a mad scramble to check every single one to ensure that doesn't happen again. Okay, this is what happens when you're not paying attention. Actually, I had this last week. Oh yeah, this is great. In the UK, apparently this blogger or this author thought it'd be interesting to, basically stick a woman's shoe into an escalator, or maybe it's a gym shoe. I'm not quite sure. You know what? This is what happens when your shoe gets stuck in an escalator during rush hour. Well, this is what happens to your shoe when you're not lifting it up at the end of an actual, after riding it. So that's probably the better response in terms of the headline here. But yeah, this is, get off your phone, people, and lift up your feet. And this guy's smiling up a storm here because he thinks it's the funniest thing in the world, I guess. But the reality is that, lift your feet up, man. You could probably post a similar blog post. So this is what happens when you walk up the stairs and you don't lift your feet up and you do head face plant up the stairs. We've all done that occasionally, or you haven't lifted up your feet enough. But yeah. Visit ESF to find out how to figure out how to ride an escalator correctly. Okay, the man dies after falling off escalator at the Providence Place Mall. All I can say is this news article came up last week. This guy's a guitarist for a band called Anal, C-U-N-T. I'm not going to say the word. To me, that's just it's an awful word to say. I mean, I think on the way for a woman to say the word, C-U-A-N-T, it's very, very bad, very bad. And I just have a hard time saying the band. I don't know, but if you're part of a band called Anal, C-U-N-T, I don't know what to say, but perhaps maybe you're living life a little bit too vivaciously to where, you stupid actions are going to catch up to you. In this case, witnesses had reported that this man who had died, in an escalator over the side fall, had been goofing around, and that seems to be. It's a tragedy nonetheless, but the reality is that some people you just can't help. All right. Next article: 2 die in St. Louis fall. Apparently, a couple of laborers had fallen down an escalator or an elevator shaft, when apparently some safety bucket, which again I don't quite understand what that does, did the cable that ran that or that suspended this in the shaftway broke and they plummeted to their death. I've never heard of a safety basket that is used in a situation like this whatsoever, but they were, basically unskilled, untrained workers that were doing this, and one has to wonder whether or not there's other issues here in St. Louis or how this building was being how do you call it? They were gutting it to some extent, and there's another word for it, but I'm not going to be able to come up with it before I switch to the next article. But yeah, it's tragedy. If you witness an unsafe act happening or you see something, please speak up. And this is coming from the Dispatch St. Louis or St. Louis Post-Dispatch news article, and it's not good. I just envision somebody on a clothesline. That's probably not what happened, though, so just know that. Okay, 2-year-old injured on escalator. This is the Gulf News story that I did talk about, and again, that I have the photo linked up in. Apparently, was riding the escalator with his parents on Sunday afternoon before he was injured. The child reached the first floor. The rail suddenly gave way, and he slipped, causing him to fall straight to the ground floor. I don't understand quite what happened here, but just the reality is that you look at the image on the website link, and I just want to scream. I just want to scream when I see this. Terrifying. And again, I've seen it firsthand because it drives me nuts. Okay, man climbing around leads to escalator death. That's the article that I talked about earlier. The guitarist from Anal, C-U-N-T. Yeah, this guy looks like he should be in a band like that. And I don't mean to belittle what happened here at all. Reality is that, you know what? Just if you're doing stupid stuff like this on an escalator, there's a good chance you're doing stupid stuff in life. I'm just going to go out there and say it. That's my own personal opinion. Whether he did or not it is a whole other story. And nobody deserves to... to die by death by escalator, elevator, anything like that for that matter. But the reality is you're gonna do stupid stuff, put life in your own hands like this. I don't know what you're gonna expect, and you're growing up for goodness sakes. So, and in case you forgot how to ride escalators, ESF.org has a bunch of different programs that you can share with your friends and join their mailing list as well to figure out how to communicate that message to our fine members in bands like Anal, C-U-N-T. And other entities like that. Okay. Seniors disabled at risk in downtown high-rise building. This is a San Diego Channel 7 NBC News article. I'm going to let everybody read that on their own and watch the video if you like. Senior facilities typically that are run by state agencies and entities. I don't mean to generalize this, but here in Chicago, I got an article that I'll share at the end of the program. Typically are not cared for as probably one might think due to funding and whatnot. So just as a reminder, elevators are really important for buildings like this. And I'll get into that a little bit, a little later, but yeah, it's not good. Next news article: lawsuit filed against hotel in drowning. I think this is the second one that actually happened in Houston, in the Houston area, in the last maybe 10, 15 years. And the reality is this sounds horrific. Yeah. And the reality is it was not I don't know if it was I don't know whether or not, oh yeah, you know what? Okay, ceiling in the basement there. Yeah, so she was not in the elevator. But at some point, you wonder if there's going to be new legislation or any type of building code updates in locations where there's the potential for flooding to ensure that people that go down into a parking garage or a basement during a hurricane or potential flood, that they're aware that they should not do that. There are devices that will prevent elevators from going into pits and areas if there is. But the reality is that I got to change the title of that. The reality is it's a little frightening to know that this actually could happen. Okay, Times Leader in Pennsylvania has an article: legislators advance elevator safety measures in honor of Lake County prison guard. I think anytime we can improve elevator safety, escalator safety in our wonderful United States of America, I'm all for it. I'm not sure whether or not the bill would have prevented this accidents from occurring, because apparently it was a prison guard, an inmate that was apparently had fallen through a set of elevator doors and then pulled the prison guard with him. Tragically, you know, it was a terrible outcome nonetheless, but the reality is that, you know, elevator inspection agencies do need the power to do what they need to do to ensure elevators are safe. And if it takes a tragedy like this to make that happen, it's unfortunate for one, but two, hopefully it's enough to you know to improve safety wherever advancements in safety are being proposed. Realtor.com. This is interesting. Here's a $98,000 tiny home, and it's outfitted with an elevator. I just pray that it is safe. I don't know, for those of you who have been listening to the show for a long time, I don't know if you recall, there was a time when the airlines were using these types of platform lifts to lower and raise baggage from the tarmac, you know, from that walkway thing. I think it's called a tarmac. No, not a tarmac. What is that thing called? Hey, the tube you walk down, you know, to get into the plane. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, reality is that there was a fatality involving one of those, and they realized there was really no safety mechanism that would prevent somebody from being crushed underneath. Had the platform been going down, blah, blah, blah. Might be still used in other areas, but the reality is I hope this is not one of those devices that has no safety mechanisms that would prevent some little child from going up or down or being underneath something from some hydraulic thing when they shouldn't be. But the reality is can you imagine the elevator code having to deal with elevators in tiny homes that are on trailers? Man, as if we didn't have enough on our hands with just residential elevators. You know, it's just kind of crazy. But yeah, first thing I've never seen that before. So we'll see whether or not that actually comes to fruition, or we see more of those. Okay, Pileup on Escalator, teach people. Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say? Yeah, it's kind of scary. Oh, yeah, here, this is my whole point of this article. I just linked it, and I can't remember what it is. Okay, so there was a pileup because a woman had fallen that at the end of the escalator run, and there's a pileup. Please try to tell people that you know, your friends, your neighbors, all that, about the stop button at the bottom of a escalator and how to stop it before a pileup happens on an escalator. That's my whole point to this, and it's kind of scary. Okay, sturgeon elevator tour at the Menominee Dam in Wisconsin. If you've never seen what a fish elevator looks like, this is it. You don't see these every day, but yep, this is modern technology at its best, helping sturgeons pathway get back to their spawning grounds upstream. You ever think of a sturgeon? You're like, hey, what the heck is this thing? I don't know. Let's just jump in it and ride it up. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, if you've ever seen one, that's there's a link in the show notes regarding that. Paralyzed man gets elevator and home repairs. I love stories like this. This is a Kansas City man who's in a wheelchair, mobility issues, and it's awesome to see companies coming together to help people like this to navigate their homes and make life just a little bit easier for them. And I think it's important that we do that as an industry as many times and as often as we possibly can. Okay, China develops an elevator response vehicle. This is interesting. So in an effort to try to curb or improve elevator safety, they have a vehicle that will basically pick up signals from black boxes that have been installed on elevators to determine whether or not there's a maintenance issue or whether there is, if there's a distress signal. Kind of interesting. Can you imagine someday, dealing with the same thing, you know, where you have a vehicle or a drone that's basically flying, or hey, that's the next thing, a drone that flies around and can pick up signals from elevators and escalators on whether or not they're running safe or not, or if there's people stuck in them. I don't know. It just seems like there might be a better way of doing it. But what do I know? I don't live in China. I do not live in China, so cannot really comment on what might or might not work. Okay, this is an article really not talking necessarily about elevators per se, but more how to get elected and how to hit a market or how to demographic like the New York City Housing Authority and get votes based on just doing something that you've promised to do, like replace doors, get an elevator running, et cetera, et cetera. And it unfortunately should not require um, your vote to do that, but if it does, so be it. So, just interesting article, and I don't necessarily agree that the title of it is correct because when you think about it, you're not really buying anything. You're just you're trying to improve the lives of people in your, in your jurisdiction, your borough, your region, and that's what you're supposed to be doing as a legislator representing the people. Next news article is actually a press release: flexible LED material rivals OLEDs inside Kone elevator, and not 100% sure exactly how this is going to relate to the industry, but looks like some pretty cool technology and making cab walls kind of cool and um, lit up and stuff like that. So I didn't realize there was an LED magazine, but I guess if there can be an elevator magazine, there can be an LED magazine as well. So, which is interesting. And the last news article of the show, I'm going to just play the actual 911 call. This is a investigative report that has been done by Chicago's WBEZ channel, which is 91.5, and it's interesting. It's moving in how they put it together. I'm going to play it for you because it's worthy of playing. And elevator maintenance has always been kind of an issue in housing authorities, no matter where you're at, for a variety of reasons that I'm not going to get into. Could do a whole nother show, but we're going to play this right now for you. Following audio comes from 3 calls made to Chicago Fire Department. Oh, I'm not going to play this one. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Okay. I'm not going to play that one right now. I'm going to play the other piece that's a little bit more better put together. Here we go. Okay, trap. Neglected elevators put Chicago's public housing residents.
One night I passed out and my live-in aide,
and this is the reason why what we do each day is so important. So just listen.
Found me face down in a pool of blood. She couldn't wake me up, so she called 911. The doctor, upon examining me, said another 5 minutes and he'd have been dead. I and CHA were lucky with regard to the elevators that night. If I had died, maybe that people could have begun to see the danger that is being presented to everybody in this building.
You pray every day that nothing ever happens where we lose anybody because we couldn't get them out fast enough. You pray every day that nothing happens to that elevator with tenants on there and it drops several floors and they end up injuring themselves. You pray every day about all of those things.
One appointment was so important for Mom to get to, and it was right next door. We were ready to go. There was more than enough time, and we could not get there, and I kept calling the clinic. We'll be there. We're just running a little late. Elevators are having issues. We never got off the floor.
So you can go to wbez.org/elevators for more information on that. But yeah, I mean, just it's a moving piece that just should make us all realize how important the work that we do each and every day is, and how people depend on being able to get up and down and out of their apartments, out of their buildings to get to doctor's appointments. And by not being able to do that, how scary that can be and how dangerous in many situations. So just know that. I just want you to pass that on to all of us who do the work that we do each and every day. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's show. Yeah, man, got through everything. That's good. Make sure you work safe. Print those articles out. Share those with your teammates, your employees, those you work with. Make sure that we're all thinking safety each and every day. And that's it. So have a great rest of the week, everybody. We'll talk to you next Wednesday when we'll have another show. Take care. Bye-bye.